We're live.
We're live, baby.
Oh, we are live. All right, we're back with another vlog for Adaptive Jiu Jitsu, and I'm here with my mate Eli.
What's happening?
Lenny unfortunately can't be here. That's okay. We're gonna do vlogs potentially separate or together, or two of us, or however we're gonna do this. We're gonna be doing this weekly, a couple times a week. This is basically going to be after training thoughts, and we will discuss topics of what we did in training and how it's basically a reflection of things that we did. And we're a day late. This is basically based off of yesterday, which was the 14th. No, 15th. I'm sorry. Today's the 16th.
Correct.
So basically yesterday we did some really cool stuff. Radji changed up some training. It was more competitive in nature for the training, and we did this thing where it was called Shark Tank. I know this is new for you. It was the first time you ever did it. Usually it's with one person, and then everybody lines up, and they just keep going with that person. But I think we had 6 or 7 people down on the mat, and the rest of the school lined up against the wall, and they basically matched up against the people that were on the ground already. And then they just, after Radji said time, he gave us a certain set of time. I think it was a minute each.
Yep.
And basically everybody rotated out. But the people that were on the bottom or were sitting were basically in the whole time. So it was mostly upper belts. It was the brown belts, a couple purples, and a blue. And yeah, it's really good for the fact that like you're pushed beyond your limit in the sense of that you're there the whole time, and you have to train really hard because everyone's coming in fresh, and basically they have full energy. And by the end of it, which I think it went like, because we had a big crew, we had a full class. It was like 25 to 30 people.
I had to have been about a half an hour straight.
I still maybe I think it was like definitely like 20 minutes around. I didn't think it was that long because I didn't. I was definitely tired, but I feel like 30 minutes when I hear that, I'm like I should have been more tired.
Yeah,
because I haven't gotten a workout like that in a while. And by like the last 2-3 people that I went with, I remember thinking to myself like I felt really good the whole time. I was also kind of aggressive in the beginning. I was trying to sweep people and submit them and whatever. And by the last like 3 rounds, I was so like dead. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna make sure you can't pass my guard. I'm just gonna stay here and hold you, But it's good for your mental fortitude, right? As Radji explained, it's like you're going through adversity, and it's good to train the mind. That the mind is the most powerful thing, and that you could push through past what your body wants to tell you its limits, because your mind is more powerful than your body itself, because you could really push through with just using your mind. And it's really good training because it's kind of what you need when you go into competition, right? You have to be able to, because sometimes you can mentally defeat yourself, especially if you cave into how your body's feeling in a sense. If it's feeling like an adrenaline dump, or it's feeling deflated, or like, oh, it's trying to send messages that like, I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. But if your brain, it's a good way to train yourself to basically overcome that, that adversity. And I think we need more of that. Like, it was a great training session. That was one of my favorite, even though I got my ass kicked towards the end. It was great.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those exercises of like training the body not to be in charge and for the mind to be in charge. It was, I think that I might have done the Shark Tank once or twice before, but during your jiu-jitsu journey, like, being at my level now, like it's intense how many doors you walk through. I can't explain it other than that. Like, it's
Can
like
you look in a direction where there isn't a door?
No, I think it just continues. Like, you just keep opening up door after door. And when you talk to people who, like Shiv even said last night, he was like, it's just so crazy. Like, the more I know, the less you know. It's like the deeper I think I'm like stronger at something.
I think that goes hand in hand in why they say it's like you really start to learn jiu-jitsu once you get your black belt.
Right. but I think the point I'm trying to make is that understanding the competition perspective, being one person that has never competed before, but being in the environment that we were competing there, I took it seriously like that. I took it like Radji is asking for this. I must execute. This isn't about me getting tired. This isn't about who I'm facing. There's no personal desires or goals here. It's what I was told to do. Execute.
Well, it's, and just to play off of
And
that,
now I can, because I can understand it. Whereas before it was more along the lines of like, all right,
Well,
so I just got to kind of like score points here. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And it kind of goes into what he said afterwards. He was proud of us, and he was saying like, as much as he wants to be an inspiration to us, we need to be inspirations to each other as teammates, as we compete and practice and train with each other. Because it's like, at the end of the day, if we're in there and we're rooting for each other and we're pushing each other, it helps. It helps in the mental. Like, think about it, man. It's like the art of war, man. Really defeat somebody is make them feel alone. But when you're with your teammates and you're pushing each other, we're not there to compete against each other. We should be there to, like, obviously we want to be the best that we can, but we're competing against ourselves to be better than what we were. So when you use that mentality, when you're going against somebody, it's not only like, if you do have the upper hand on somebody, let's say, you're still in the mindset that you're like, okay, I might have defeated you in this moment, but I'm going to pass on my knowledge so you can eventually give back what you're given. You know what I mean? So it's like a give and take game. You know what I mean? I think to me, it's the right approach to training and to get better.
So definitely have to say that I'm unbelievably impressed with the people that Radji put down, including Eddie. The way they were able to handle everyone, and I was, as Radji was saying, study what
impressed you.
What impressed me was the ability to, and I actually wrote this down, I can see each player clear their mind despite being exhausted, and they were giving themselves basic assignments to make sure, like you said, like, okay, towards the end, it was just making sure that my guard wasn't passed. At one point I watched Schloke, and it was like a highlight reel. He boloed like 8 times in a row. It was incredible. Samir is doing a great job. Spark was doing a great job. Adam was doing a great job until he got hurt. Sebastian filled in, and
who hurt Adam?
I'm not sure. I think his neck just cramped up. I gave him some. I told him, I was like, "Yo, I had my C3 and C4 herniated when I was in my 20s. I'm like, do this exercise." I showed him one, and I was like, and look up PT exercises for C3, C4.
I thought it was maybe the Notorious. I won't name his name, but he was, for some reason, was hurting a lot of people yesterday.
Oh,
He felt terrible about it.
Yeah.
I won't say his name, but
yeah, and I won't even mention another injury because then it'll be obvious who it was.
Yeah.
I got to give credit to Sebastian, because Radji had communicated that Adam was hurt and we needed to fill a spot. And in my head, I was thinking, raise your hand. And I couldn't get my hand up before Sebastian. He was fast. He was like, I want in.
Yeah. And he just went with me.
That's nuts.
Yeah. He was, and I was last. So everybody went down. Like, the people that were on the line were going through the shark tank, essentially.
Right.
Or I guess it's the other way around. I guess. No,
you're the sharks.
You're
the people
who
are on the mats are the sharks.
Right. And he went through like 6 or I don't remember.
6.
At least 6 people. And I was the last one. And he was just like, that kid, I mean, he's young, but he was just like, yeah, me.
I mean, he also, when he was training for his Man of War match, was wearing sweatpants and crew necks underneath his gi and gi pants.
Trying to lose like 20 pounds when he's
he's
soaking wet, like 145.
He straight up told me, he's like, yeah, I'm dehydrated right now. I'm like, so drink some water, bro. Your organs are going to fail. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's fine. It'll all come back. I'll be fine. I'm like, you're young now, bro. This is going to start to get you when you're older.
Yeah.
So clearing the mind, I thought, was like a very, important thing. Clearing the mind and also watching for the consistency on grips. You know, I think that's something at my level, white belt, blue belt, if you're not paying attention to where your grips are and you're just kind of reacting, you're going to end up in bad positions a lot. At least if you get some grips, you're going to start to learn reactions better, understand what your partner's going to do. And like we were talking about last night, we were talking about a couple other things, but part of that communication was you're only going to get so many different reactions from a specific movement. So if you're constantly gripping, then that's going to give you the variables to that formula. You're going to be able to sit there and say, okay, well, this is coming. So if this is coming, then I have to do this so that I can equal this product. Like I can get what I want because of this. So watching you guys specifically go for grips, and even before Radji said about controlling oneself and pushing oneself through that adversity so that you're prepared for competition level situations, adrenaline dumps, maybe a tournament not being held properly, maybe bad reffing, whatever it may be.
It's just building the mental fortitude, man.
I was sitting there literally in my head like, Eli, you got to get over how tired you are. How could you be tired? You're not the shark. And I was like, I want to be the shark. I want to go again. Like I was looking up the line after I caught my breath a little bit, and I was like, man, I want to skip these guys. I just want to go.
I mean, that's the first step I think you need.
Yeah.
You need that hunger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it was a lot of fun. It was, we obviously didn't.
They give you an itch to want to compete?
Not yet. I don't want to compete above this weight.
I know. Forget about the weight. Forget about that.
No, I've had the bug to compete now for probably like 2-3 months since I've been able to really focus on jiu-jitsu. Like I walked through the door that I was able to see a bigger picture. And once I saw the bigger picture and I could see like the loop of the connections of all the guards and all the movements, and the basic juvenile understanding of the whole thing, I got an itch. But like
it's funny because I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you said something to me that I thought is very important for somebody that wants to compete. And maybe I'm giving away something here, but you said it I don't think it was in confidence, but you said it to me and the twins. And I know they agreed. But what you said was, which I think is very important, is you're like, don't take this the wrong way, guys, but I just want to submit the hell out of you guys.
Yeah.
You basically like, and you were like, not just you guys, like everybody.
The switch flipped somehow.
And
I'm not sure what happened.
And it's like, not that it was like a malicious, like,
no,
we knew that. But it's a healthy, like, because not for nothing, every person I roll with, every person I know they roll with, every person, I feel like in order to have that, you need to have the mentality to be like strike first and really get after it and implement your game plan and then submit. You should have the mentality to, like, I'm coming in here to finish you.
Right. You know what's interesting? Like, so I've talked about it on the adaptive, what we called podcast, which we're, you guys will be finding out soon, but we're going to be renaming that the show. I think me and Ed really
podcast show.
I think we really want to do a podcast so that our audience can listen to us on audio while they're doing stuff. I have similar conversations to like this one.
I don't think it's gonna be any different.
Might not.
Think, but that's the thing.
Show would be a little bit more curated for people who can watch. Like we'll be able to see us on the mats, maybe do some moves and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Either way,
we're gonna add some stuff. Don't worry.
I digress.
Some big things, some big things in the
hell yeah,
waiting in the wings.
So what I was gonna say is that a big part of me not really wanting to compete was, I played 3 different sports at a very high level, and I had Eddie saw me play when I was younger. I had moxie. Like it was even though I'm a humble guy, like you could see on me that like
you have competitive nature.
Yes,
and I think that's what's happening now.
Yes, I agree.
Mind me
100%. Go ahead.
Is I think in the beginning you didn't have it. You had your competition in other areas of different sports because you are competitive in nature,
yep,
but in a good way, healthy way. But I think what's going on right now is you started off, you're like, I just want to learn and absorb. And now that you've been learning and absorbing, and not that that's ever going to go away, because as true practitioners, you always should strive for learning and absorbing as much as you can, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like data collecting, right?
Right.
I think now, because you're getting better and because you can see yourself becoming more competitive in your nature of your training from what you've learned, that competitive nature switched on for jujitsu.
Yeah, I think that's, you hit it on the head. I really didn't know when that switch turned on, but
Recently, for
yeah,
sure.
it was 100% within the last like 2, maybe 3 months max.
I think it just goes into how much you want to train too. I think
Yeah, I don't want to
I
stop.
think I think the part of I think it's two things. I think one, you want to experience it,
Hmm.
and I think two, you kind of want to prove to yourself like I did learn something.
Hmm.
Let me test it out, win or lose. I think you just have that like I want to go out there and fuck someone up.
I'm not gonna lie too. At 37 years old, there's also something about me that is like, okay, I need to slow this clock down. I need to use jujitsu as my fountain of youth to keep me young, and
You could do
by
that with your training.
absolutely, and by throwing myself into the training, I will do that.
Hmm.
You know, by keeping my mind sharp through the study, and you know, I've said it before, but it's grown even more. Adaptive to me is about growing as a practitioner, growing as a teammate, and being able to give back to the community that I'm a part of. This is why I wanted to do adaptive in the first place, whether it was the content that we were providing, spending time with people as we did different activities for adaptive, when we create our gear and we create designs for stuff, that all of that is to positively affect the space around us, and whoever wants to be in that space can be part of that growth, can be part of that positive energy.
Well, I think like pretty much the message of adaptive, right? And maybe this is just in a nutshell, but it's like it's basically passing on the benefits and creating a community of what our standards are and what we think what it's done to change our lives for the better, and like why not spread that, like, like we function in society, right? And not everybody's like this, but like for the most part, like way we should be is to just kind of grow as a culture, society, as communities to better ourselves. And I think jujitsu is a great it's a great way to channel that and to tap into like a community where like we benefit not only each other but ourselves. It just makes us better.
Mm-hmm.
Why not spread that?
Yeah,
We see the benefits that it's done for our lives. Why not spread that and make people the best that they could possibly be?
I agree, 100%. So to keep moving here, um,
Oh yeah, dude! I just realized the time.
so I wanted to talk about how it changed my training. So this was interesting. Uh, after finishing Shark Tank, we bowed out. Raji gave us a little bit of a speech, and then we bowed out. Training started. I took a couple videos because I wanted to put out some content for the evening, and um, I didn't have many rolls last night. But when I went into my rolls, I think I had kind of like a mental drop. I was so focused on competing during the Shark Tank that I kind of, my game broke. Like I missed my
Do
connections.
you think you know why?
I do think I know why, and I think it was more. And I think this is, even as we're having this conversation, is pretty clear. It was more mental than anything else.
Mm.
It wasn't physical. I was fine physically.
You want to elaborate?
Sure. So, you know, even simply like framing. And we ended up in a discussion later that evening about a position that I need to work on. Bottom side, half guard. And it's funny because on the reverse of that, the top side half guard, I feel like a monster, but on bottom side, I'm trying to do things that don't make sense, and they're not. They're also, not only do they not make sense because I'm trying to explode instead of like building those frames, but also relying on some other grips and other forms of attack from half guard that should kind of be like maybe a little bit later stage, maybe after building some frames and
It's funny because you've been preaching this a while about building the house.
Yeah, I know. I know, because I've been working so hard on from side control, creating
I think you
space and
hold
high
on too
pummels.
much, tense.
Yeah.
Like when you're on bottom, I
Mhm.
feel like you're much looser on top. That's why you're able to maneuver and know exactly at the stage that you are in jiu-jitsu anyway, at your level. You're definitely more comfortable on top, moving into positions and transitioning.
Or backing out.
You have more of a flow because you kind of know exactly where you go,
Mhm.
where you want to go. You have an idea where you want to go. I think you get too wrapped up when you're on bottom. This is just me, objectively, just
I'm absorbing.
just looking, just observing myself on you. Is that when you're on bottom, you get really tense and you do a lot of like holding on for dear life instead of like creating space. And I'm not saying you're not relaxed. I wouldn't say that you're not relaxed because you're not afraid to get beat up.
No.
It's not even that. But I do think you just shut everything down in the sense of like reaction and thinking. Maybe you're overthinking.
Yeah.
And that's why you're holding on because you're like, I just don't know what to do.
It's like paralysis over analysis. Like I'm analyzing so much that I'm paralyzing myself.
And I think you should just be a little bit looser and just kind of like move yourself in positions and just see what you're giving yourself and see where your partner is going to move.
Right.
And then make the adjustments the next time based on how they move. And they move in a position where they got a better position on you. Okay, pay attention to what happened. You're already good at doing that.
Isn't it interesting that like, and let me ask you if you've done this before in the past too. Like I'll work with like newer students and they'll ask me a question, like, hey, can you help me out with this? And what am I doing here? And I'll give them everything you just gave me. Like I know the answers. I'm just doing a bad job executing. Have you ever done that? Because like I've found myself a couple times coaching something and like knowing exactly what to do. I can do it to a white belt and I can do it to a blue belt, but I have trouble with an upper belt.
Are you talking about like philosophically explaining something
opposed to like actual basic concepts like we were talking about, like building the house, building your frames up, using those frames to move out, realizing that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
It is kind of weird that you're very knowledgeable. For me personally, I didn't really talk too much until I became like I felt like I couldn't speak on it if I knew about it until I was a little bit more successful on it, because I
usually don't do that either.
You don't do it. And I'm not even saying you're full of shit for no, I mean this.
Yeah.
No, I mean this, but it's like for me, like I was more afraid to I was uncertain. But you also have a lot more higher belts guiding you, so you kind of like and not only
I'm
that,
constantly absorbing what they're saying too.
I didn't have as much as I was coming up. I had a few, you have a lot more. So it's like you can just go over questions over and over every night and you can absorb it, and you're analytical, so you could break shit down. And sometimes you can break shit down, it doesn't mean you can execute it. So for me, there was less people, and when they would ask me, I would only really speak on stuff that I was successful in. And if I wasn't, I would basically be like, this is what I've observed from other people being able to do it. I'm just not there yet.
And when I don't know what something is, what I usually say is, let's work on it. Let's see what we can figure out.
Right. And you troubleshoot.
Right.
And you do a lot more than that. I mean, I do a lot of troubleshooting now, but as a blue belt, I wouldn't troubleshoot so much as I would. I guess it was more troubleshooting with myself, which I probably should have done was troubleshoot with the person that I was, like either the question was asked to me or if I was trying to figure something out. I didn't do it so much. I would do it. I
like to take the positions that I'm in, and when I find myself frequently in them, whether it's a particular grip or an actual guard, that I pose the questions that way, because I feel like I could get more bang for my buck than saying, hey, if I'm specifically here, my hips are specifically, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like by getting those basics, now I'm able to maybe uh, execute stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was,
I mean, that is important.
yeah, absolutely. I do think it's kind of interesting to think about what happened there, because for somebody who is competing, I would imagine that what I felt was very similar to what they would feel after going in a specific tournament and like winning maybe and waiting to get to their next match,
Mm-hmm.
and they expelled so much energy that they were like uh, um, dopamine dump, and then they're waiting for their next match to get to their next match, and they
Dopamine dump, or you mean adrenaline dump?
adrenaline. I'm not dopamine. Adrenaline dump. Well, I guess it could be a dopamine if that person's like really like
Oh,
happy and excited from the last win.
yeah, but
It's more adrenaline.
yeah,
It's
because
more
you don't have
adrenaline.
dopamine dumps. But
No,
yeah, whatever.
it's more
That's
adrenaline. Dopamine is
semantics.
more of a baseline, and if it drops, you get kind of like sad and shit like that. But anyway, my point is that now you go to your next match. I'd imagine that somebody competing would probably then have to like kind of retool in their head and say, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to get. This is how I want to finish. Because otherwise, all of a sudden, the wiring is like shot. Because
I would say like a lot of good competitors do go in with game plans.
So we went a little bit long here, but I wanted to at least touch on these last 2 points. So what, as far as
Oh shit, my laptop's gonna die soon. Go.
as
Sorry.
far as personal progress and like current focus, what do you got? And it doesn't have to be long; it could be quick. So like personal progress, like you just got your your third stripe. How do you feel about your progress right now within your brown belt and your jiu-jitsu journey, and what are you
That's good.
focusing on now moving forward?
That's a good question. I mean, what I'm really focusing on is just fine tuning everything that I do decently. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like. I would never call myself an expert in any like. Like for me, it's funny because like I have my things for sure that I prefer, but I I really do study jujitsu as a whole. I really try to like. There's a lot of things that I'm sometimes it'll come to me quicker. There's other things that I like. Thank you. There's other things that I like and I'll watch and I'll be like, oh, I want to learn that and I'll work on that, because there's so many aspects of the game that could be beneficial. I never just kind of say to myself, like, I'm just limiting myself to just this. Now, the things that I'm good at, do I always fine tune them? Yeah, of course. But I'm always trying to adjust my game and adapt my game in other aspects and areas. So like sometimes like someone else that's good at something, like say the twins, like a lot of times they start working on something. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start working on it. Just an example. Or anybody that I see that's really successful in an area of something they do, I go, ooh, that works. Let me work on it. I don't really limit myself. I've throughout my whole jujitsu practice, I've always tried to keep like a spider web of things that I do. I don't really just stick to one thing. Also, it's kind of tough too because like I'll maybe fall back to things that I used to do, but like I have to constantly evolve my jujitsu. I feel like it should be like that with everybody, and I'm not sure if it is or isn't, but for me, people start figuring me out, you know? And yeah, I've trained at other gyms, but not like some people like train everywhere, including their home base. I don't really do that. So like everyone I train with will start figuring out what I'm good at. And then I have to adjust my jujitsu and learn new things so I can, get around them basically figuring out how to defend the moves that I'm actually like my best stuff, I guess.
Right.
But as far as like what I'm working on right now, I'm trying to do more like Delahiva and reverse Delahiva is what I've been working on for the past couple months. But I think it's also like an influence of like who I'm training with,
Right.
and what they're doing. So I'm always trying to adapt to like my surroundings. So I guess in a sense, for me, I don't even know if this is the best practice. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm always trying to learn what jujitsu is being brought to my front doorstep. So whether that's me just catching on to something that we're learning from, whoever's coaching, or or professor, that day, or just in training, if I catch a couple people that I'm like, ooh, that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work on that, and then I'll go and try to study it a little bit so I can nullify it, and then also not only know how to defend it, but then also know how to attack with it myself. But right now it's been more like reverse Delahiva and Delahiva
I think there's
from bottom anyway.
I think you're getting more bang for your buck if you're focusing on positions and movements that your closest training partners are working on, because then
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
you're
Yeah.
able to like create failures
Mhm.
and share and reflect and learn from each other. And then even with successes, and I think you're elevating the gym then, because if you've got
That's
4 or
another way I
5
look at it.
people
Mhm.
that are doing the same thing, and that's why I'm trying to plug into you guys too, because it's like, okay, now I can do it at my level. And now all those looks are happening. You're getting that wave of people, or I think you attributed it to the sharks in the water lurking, doing similar things. And then, once you've built a better base there, your game is better, the gym's game is better. And from an exercise standpoint, like practicality, like concepts, now all of a sudden you as a group are better at managing education and then executing together. So my personal progress, and I'm at my I got my second stripe in the fall.
You don't remember?
Oh man, I totally forget now. I think it was the fall, like November. I think it was.
It was.
Yeah, it was
How
November.
do I know that and you don't know?
Because
that?
you have a better memory than I do.
You should at least remember stuff like that.
I think
But anyway,
I think moving forward it's going to be a lot easier to remember, because I've been able, for those of you who would like to discuss more, and I'm sure I'll do this in the future with different conversations, but if they want to discuss more like personal, like work life jiu-jitsu balance, come talk to me, because I've gone through a lot, and I might be able to give you some tidbits that I think really have helped me. And I'm still in the thick of it.
I agree with that, because to give kudos to Eli, he's never really he's been training for 3.5 years now, and he's one of the most consistent practitioners that I know, and he's somehow balanced that with like a 50 to 60 hour work week, and outside of maybe like missing a week, maybe two, once in a blue moon, he's been pretty much 4 to 5 days. I would say average 4 days, and 3.5 years average.
Yeah. And honestly, for a lot of it, it was just, drip in the cup. Like, it wasn't a lot. I was there
1 day at a time.
But it was right. Exactly. It was 1 day at a time. And like, you got to look at it that way too. Like, not every day you're going to be able to walk in and be your best when there's a Shark Tank.
And also, man, dude, there's no shame in leaning on your teammates and your friends from jiu-jitsu, and sometimes like they can help push you. Days that you don't want to go train, you're tired and you overworked and you didn't get sleep.
We do it with each other. We call each other a couple minutes before class and we're like, "Yo, where you at?"
Dude, there's been I can tell you right now, there's maybe a dozen or two times where you called me and I was like, "Oh man, I had a bad day at work. I'm tired." Blah blah. Blah. And you're like, "Oh man, you'll feel better. Just come train." And like, I was literally convincing myself not to go.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, "No, he's right.
Yeah.
Don't be don't be a pussy.
Yeah, don't listen to the body.
Yeah, and like it's good motivation, man. I would say lean on your friends, and that's why you know, like on your teammates. That's why they're there, and to push each other. And like I guarantee you, everyone that's listening, you regret when you don't go, and when you fight through that little voice that's talking in your head, like you know what, man, like I'll just give myself a day off. Like what? But dude, do you not always feel better right after training? Whether you got your ass kicked or didn't, you absorbed something, you gained something every time. I don't care what, you know, how you felt even after training. If you felt defeated, you're still going to feel better that you went and trained as opposed to not. And that's just boom.
Dude, and
just
then
ride the wave, the momentum.
and if you don't regret not going, you should be asking yourself some difficult questions about your heart.
Well, I don't think you're being honest with yourself.
I agree. I mean, you
But
got
that's a whole nother conversation.
I mean, yeah, that's a deep dive.
Yeah.
I will say though that part of that conversation of being able to control the body with the mind and not letting the mind be controlled by the body
over matter.
You have to think about your heart, because if your heart isn't into something, then again you have to reroute.
There's got to be passion.
Exactly. Like you have to feed that passion. And
people don't realize those two go hand in hand. The problem is your heart has the emotions and it has its own beating thought process, but your mind is, I think, the key to navigate and to work to. You need, like, we all have emotions, we all have feelings, but I think the mind, which is so powerful, is to use that tool to basically navigate and to understand why you're having those feelings and emotions. And I think you should break that down to the nuts and bolts why, so you can understand, and then your mind can have full control.
Right. Totally agree. So to finish off the personal progress and current focus,
you had one more thing, right?
No, that was it. Yeah. So for the personal progress, I feel that the last 3 months I've grown exponentially. I feel a lot more confident in application after reviewing technique and actually then taking it and using it in training. As far as current focus, I'm really working on defending from the open guard position, and I would say that I'm very focused on submissions right now. I was not focused at all on submissions throughout, which is funny because most people come into
That's
jiu-jitsu
why I said
and
what
like,
I said earlier.
Yeah,
you have that hunger for it.
Now it's changed.
It's
just and specifically the submissions
switch.
Coming from in the last 2 weeks I've started more closed guard submissions. The side control has always been like where I would kind of get submissions here or there, but now I'm actually like really working specific ones in.
I'm
and
curious.
The back.
I don't want to. I know we're closing in on 40 minutes, and we wanted to keep this at like 15. But
that's okay because some of the vlogs are going to be long, some of them are going to be short.
And just so you guys all know, but real quick question: what do you think your highest percentage of submissions are right now?
Probably the bow and arrow. Okay. has probably been and then
that's because you like the chair seat, so I know why you get it.
And then right after the bow and arrow, the arm bar, because if the bow and arrow isn't there, I just transition to the arm bar. And then
strong attacks.
The bread cutter has been there a lot from side control. And then as of recently, the cano choke.
Your dog is outside.
Oh, I left him outside.
I just heard him bark.
That's funny. It's okay. He's a dire wolf.
That's true.
Yeah,
he was a.
Eddie specifically said to me before we started this podcast, "Do not leave the dog outside."
I heard him bark. I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna wake up your kid," and then I was like, "Oh, he's outside."
No, yeah, he loves chilling outside. He
was a stand-in for Game of Thrones. Don't worry.
Yeah,
he's a big boy. He can handle it.
Red Sable German Shepherd. He's 119 pounds. He's a big boy. All right, cool. So let's close it out. You don't have anything else that you want to add, do you?
No, the only thing I would say is revisit me with that question you asked about like what I've been working on reflection, because it's a deeper question than I was prepared for, and I want to give it some time to think so I can give I felt like I gave a very vague, like open-ended response.
Yeah, no, we could.
And
I think that's something we're gonna have to bring up over time anyway,
that's
just to
fine.
continue to grow.
Yeah, I just want to be able to think about it a little bit more. Like, obviously I know what I've been working on, but like progress and stuff like that, I want to be able to go in a little bit deeper about it.
Right.
And just ask that question again. Let's revisit it.
Awesome.
For myself anyway.
All right, guys. So thank you for joining us. Check out
love you guys.
our rash guard. Check out, our stuff.
AdaptiveJujitsu.com.
Yep.
Check out Radji Barrett Jiu-Jitsu where we train. Yeah, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of content coming. Give us feedback. We want to hear from you guys. We want you guys to let us know what you want to talk about. The questions that me, Eddie, and Lenny will be asking each other, and guests that we have on, we want you guys asking those questions too, so that we can have those conversations. Email us, text us.
Right.
Anyway,
this isn't a conversation just between the Adaptive crew. This is a conversation between the whole jiu-jitsu community. So
absolutely,
yes, the more questions you guys ask, the more conversation you guys want to have with us, better we can have content for you and conversation we can have for you and speak on jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
subscribe, like, do all the good things to help support us, and let's continue this journey together. Adapt or get tabbed, baby.
All right, later, guys.